Spiritual Concepts Part 1, Negative Permission Slips. They're really important to understand because they do happen everywhere. And I talk about horror movies and TV shows, anything with a bit of spiritual flair that I like to dissect and actually teach you what is the spiritual aspect of this. Also, what is the negative permission slip? What is the solution, right? So, understanding negative permission slips is as simple as knowing that a negative permission slip is the unconscious permission given to any external authority to influence you negatively in some way. So in horror movies and shows, it's usually shown with like an entity or an agency or an abuser that'll exploit someone's beliefs, their fears, even their innocence and trust. And I can go on and on about that because there is a bit of lack of discernment there, which is what they exploit. But in spiritual law, nothing, no entity, no influence, no force, no agency can actually interfere with you in any way without some form of permission. And that permission is rarely given consciously. It is usually created through, some unresolved trauma, fear states, guilt, disempowerment, anything that can open up that doorway that you've been acting on for a long time. So this is when you're acting from a place of disempowerment, acting from a place of fear for a long time. It's not that you do this one or two or three times and all of a sudden you're this open gate. That's not how it works. But over time, paired with a lot of societal conditioning, family conditioning, they can access these different fears and beliefs. So, according to universal law of vibration and universal law of resonance, like attracts like, right? I'm sure you've heard this over and over. And when you suppress and hold on to unhealed pain patterns, you may unconsciously align with energies that match that frequency, right? So, for example, if you're an overgiver, you'll usually match with someone who's a taker because it makes sense, right? So, if you have all of these fears that you're acting on or disempowerment that you're acting on, you're going to see and experience more disempowerment. These energies understand this. They understand that they need these loopholes. They know that their access depends on these loopholes. So they'll work through these fear-based conditionings. They'll exploit your emotions. They'll exploit your belief systems like you don't matter, you're powerless, you can't trust yourself. And these thought forms act like subtle invitations, not because you're weak, but because there's usually been some conditioning to forget your own sense of agency and authority within. Sometimes just follow to go along with things, right? Consciously, you might not think so, but look at certain patterns from the past, right? But universal law also requires balance. Under a universal law of polarity and the law of cause and effect, anything that gains access must also reveal the solution and the exit route, which is so cool. And this is why I love pointing it out because it's not always obvious. And this is why the same systems that might weaken others, they have to show the truth. They have to show that through the symbols or storylines, something even subtle. They have to reveal the pattern and the remedy. It's a form of spiritual contractual law. Nothing can influence you without actually showing itself and then giving a solution. So the positive solution will always exist because universal law demands equilibrium. It's the law of polarity. The moment that you see the pattern, you start to become more aware. You're less easily able to be controlled. You can spot it from a mile away. This is that form of discernment that you really need. Awareness, discernment, and action. These will always get you out of these negative permission slips because your vibration will shift. You'll become more aware and you will make different decisions, hopefully, based on the clarity that you have learned here. And again, this is why it's almost feels like a purpose of mine to show what the negative aspects are and the positive so that you can start to see it even from a subtle point of view and to really start working on your own sense of empowerment and trust and also your own sense of agency and sovereignty. If you have any questions on that, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. And I would also love to hear from anyone else who has reclaimed their agency in any situation. Like, how did that actually feel, right? How great was that? Even in the moment, if things are really difficult and things are really, really hard, after the fact, when you start reclaiming that sense of power, you actually start to notice how much more you've given power away in your life and how to remedy that.